those.
I call this meeting of Central Florida Facilitators Toastmasters Club 9958 to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. For any of our guests, the restrooms, you can come out at any door, make a left. The first opening, you make another left, go all the way down, will be on the right-hand side. This is the time to turn off our cell phones. Please, everyone, turn them off. Last week, we had someone breaking the rules. At Toastmasters, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Through this mission, each Toastmaster gains a clear understanding of the club's purpose, and the organization as a whole benefits from a shared set of values and goals. Please help me welcome our thought and pledge leader for this evening, Jorge Elliott.
Thank you. I think that was left from the last schedules.
Oops.
We'll improvise. Today is a great day, 6th of August. It is, does anybody know what day is today?
6th of August.
What do we celebrate? What does the world celebrate? Someone very close to me. It is my 4th of July. It's Bolivian Independence Day. So let's stand up and help me salute the table. I will have in my heart my three, red, yellow, and green.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome our president, Mr. Johnathan Dunn.
So awesome to see your smiling faces out there. Especially you, Micki, since you're speaking tonight. It's a very special occasion tonight. Since we have a guest in the audience, let's talk about why we're called the Facilitators. There is some meaning behind that name, Michann. Number one, we are sponsored by the Central Florida chapter of the American Society of Training and Development, the premier organization for professional facilitators, open to all. A good facilitator needs to be a strong communicator and an effective leader. And Toastmasters is all about communication and smart leadership. To facilitate means to make things easy and possible. And we want to make things easy and possible for everyone tonight. As I mentioned earlier, we have a guest in the room tonight. So Michann, and I hope I didn't butcher that, would you stand up and share with the room your name, why you're here, what you hope to accomplish?
This is a great group. I'm here because I had been a part of the Rollins Toastmasters, and I had been in the group for about 6 months, and then walked in one week and no one was there, and it was summer break. So I want to find a group that just meets consistently, and I have about the next year to do this because for my church I help with the 8 to 12-year-old girls. I have a weekly group that I do with them, and it just switched from Wednesday to Tuesday. So I've got 1 year to do this.
All right.
I hope to get my speeches out. So
Okay.
thanks for
And Mark, I want to tell you, as Table Topics Master tonight, she is familiar with that and has done that before.
I already got her name down.
Unless there are any announcements from the audience, I want to focus all of tonight's attention for this part on the fact that in 2 weeks, we're going to be having our humorous speech and evaluation contest. So, Toni, did you or Micki decide to be the contest master for that?
Well, Micki is, but she may be in the contest, so
Wow.
we may need an assistant, or Susan and I will have to do more work.
Would one of you care to stand up and give a status on where we're at and anything that we need from the membership at this
Can
point?
we do that at the end of the meeting? It'll fit with the
Absolutely.
flow of information here.
I am all for it.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Are there anyone else in the audience that has an announcement they need to make? Because I want to roll into this topic tonight. It's going to be good. No announcements. In that case, Toni Giddles has been a member of the Central Florida Facilitators since 2004. Previously, she was a Toastmaster in the Chicago area. Toni graduated from Northwestern University with a master's degree in audiology in 1971. In her very first job, all the audiologists would gather for a meeting with the clinic director at the end of the day. The staff would then present their patient findings for the day. The audiologists would typically be grilled about how they interpreted the test results and arrived at their recommendations. It wasn't called mentoring back in the 70s, but it was one of the most useful learning experiences of Toni's career, especially coming out of school and into the real world for the very first time. The clinic director was one of the individuals who founded the profession of audiology, and he set standards very high. Toni definitely considers Dr. James Jorge her first mentor. After that, Toni always looked for role models, especially women, in the profession. People she admired, who excelled at their jobs, who she could emulate. She attributes her success to the many supportive colleagues throughout her career. Please welcome our Toastmaster this evening with the theme of mentoring, Ms. Toni Giddles.
As a long-term member of this club and mentor to our Vice President of Education, Miss Micki D decided to throw down a challenge to me today. She says it was unconscious, but I don't believe her. I am your Toastmaster. I will present the educational moment, and I am giving a speech. To prevent this from happening in the future, please sign up for a role if you're going to be here. So, first words from your mentor of the evening. My educational moment is about the contest. And because I'm giving a speech on the evaluation contest, and I feel that each and every one of you can enter the evaluation contest, I thought I would focus on information that could help you make a decision to be in that contest. So how a Toastmaster contest works, it's more formal than a regular meeting. There's rules. You will not have a specific project manual to use as your guide in presenting your evaluation. You may not even know the test speaker. Ideally, you have not heard the test speaker in the past. There's no voting on Best Evaluator by the members. Prior to the start of the contest, we'll meet here before the actual contest time, and I, as your contest master, do I meet with the evaluators? No, I meet with the speakers, all the contestants. So all the contestants meet with me, and I go over the rules. It's time for you to ask questions, and you will select the order of your speaking assignment. You will be in the room when the contest starts, and you will hear the introductions to the contest. And then a test speaker will be introduced. That's your key to get on the edge of your seat, get your pen and paper ready so that you can start taking notes for your evaluation. You watch, you listen, you use your critical thinking skills, you do everything possible to be able to take some notes so you can formulate your evaluation. Which comes next? At the conclusion of the test speaker, you will be ushered out of the room. And Charlie, I have a request for you. Could you find out if we can use that game room down the hall? It's open, so perhaps it'll be okay. There's chairs in there. You'll go back there and you have a place where it'll be quiet and you can write out your notes and prepare your speeches. You will have 5 minutes to do that. And then we will take away all your notes. Sorry. Got to be fair as possible here. You can still think about your evaluation, but we will then usher the first evaluator number 1, into the room. Obviously, you will not be allowed to hear any of the evaluations until you give your own evaluation. Then you can be seated in the room. The judges will score each of the contestants, and I gave you a handout that gives you the criteria that the judges are looking at. They're going to rate your evaluation on a scale of 1 to 100. Oh, well, or 0 to 100, hopefully not 0 or 1 or 2 or 3. So I would like you to look at that. There's about 5 or 6 handouts there. Find the judge's guide and ballot so that you can start thinking like an evaluator. In fact, when we get to the evaluators for this evening, you can grade the evaluators. Okay, that one piece of paper has room for all 3 evaluator names, and you grade them by giving them points. On the back of the sheet is the information related to a little explanation of what those 4 items mean. And I'll also be reviewing that in my speech, so that will be before the evaluators come up to speak. The contest cycle begins with the club contest, which is August 21st. It will be both the evaluation contest and the humorist speech contest. If you are a member of the club, no matter how long you've been a member, you are eligible to be in both contests. Thank you. Let's introduce our functionaries. See, I did that after so they wouldn't start buzzing me. I have a plan. Our grammarian for the day is Stephen Morgan. Stephen, please tell us about your role.
Madam Toastmaster, I've already caught one faux pas from you. Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to start yet.
Yeah, you can start.
As grammarian, I'm supposed to expand your vocabulary, and one of the ways to do that is the word of the day, as has been laid out on the table for you, which is emulate. It is a verb meaning to strive to equal or excel, or to imitate by means of an emulator, or to equal or approach equality with, such as Toastmasters work to improve themselves by emulating other Toastmasters. If you are a member, you've already given your icebreaker, and you have an opportunity to speak today. You are to find a way to slip that word in or pay the 25-cent penalty. I'll also be listening to interesting uses of the English language, good and bad, to report during the general evaluation at the end of the meeting. Madam Toastmaster.
Our timer today is Susan Morgan. Susan, please tell us how the timing position.
Thank you. One of the skills Toastmasters practice is expressing a thought within a specific time. I hope to emulate all those timers that have come before me. As timer, I am responsible for monitoring time for each speaker in each meeting segment. I will operate the timing signal indicating to each speaker how long he or she has been speaking. For our prepared speeches to qualify for voting, speakers must speak not less than 30 seconds under their range minimum and not more than 30 seconds over their range maximum. I will turn on the green light at mid-range minimum and yellow light at mid-range and the red light at range maximum. For table topics, For speakers to qualify, speakers must speak at least 1 minute, no more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The green light will come on at 1 minute, yellow light at 1.5, and red at 2 minutes. For evaluators, they must speak a minimum of 1 minute and 30 seconds and a maximum of 30 minutes and 30 seconds. The green,
30 minutes.
oops, sorry, 33 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm getting them mixed up. Green light at 2 minutes, yellow light at 2.5, and red light at 3. My speakers are Micki, she requested 4 to 6 minutes, and Jorge 5 to 7, and also Toni 5 to 7, correct? And I will indicate this light, and I'll give my reports when asked to do so. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Madam Wizard of Oz, tell us how we may emulate your position when we get there.
You should not use ahs or My job is to keep track of audible crutches such as ahs and ums and double clutches, which is the repetition of a word while the speaker thinks of their next word. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words like, it doesn't have it in parentheses, but it should be like and so. Then you know. I will report at the end of the meeting where I noted any of these infractions. The buzzer will sound when I hear any of these infractions. The buzzer is not to embarrass the speaker or to give immediate feedback. It may also stimulate an ability to get past distractions that invariably occur during a speech. Guests and members who have not given their icebreaker speech are not normally buzzed. The fines for each infraction is 10 cents. Guests and members who have not given their icebreaker speech will not be fined. But I will keep track of these infractions to help them improve their speaking ability.
Thank you, Pat. The Supervisor of Elections, also known as the vote counter, Alan, 1L, Lampier.
I'd like to emulate the rest of my fellow functionaries tonight. As the vote counter, I will pick up your ballots for best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and most improved speaker. I will tally the results for award presentations at the end of the meeting. I will also pick up any comments you might have written for the speakers or any meeting participant and deliver the comments to the appropriate person. Thank you, Madam President.
Before we get into our speeches, I'd like to tell you a little something about mentoring, a recent experience that I had. When I was first a Toastmaster here, I observed everybody. I listened carefully. I picked out the people I admired, and I couldn't wait till the next meeting so they could teach me more. It's fun now to be a mentor, and it doesn't take a long time for you to be able to step in that position. One of my mentees is Pat Stogner, and the thrill that I had last Friday night was that after hearing Pat give a practice speech in here that she was going to use Friday, I got to go in a real life situation with her, a big event by the American Cancer Society, and observe her being Pat, giving a speech, and being awesome. Now, there was a national convention going on in Nashville that was live streaming, and there were 2 major speakers before Pat, speaking to hundreds, maybe 1,000 people. I was so proud of Pat. I gave her the Best Speaker Award. Get out, those girls. Come on, get up here.
That is sweet. Thank you, everybody.
I know it's possible that some of you enjoyed my evaluation of Pat's speech, but the lesson was that Pat, knowing her audience and knowing what she wanted to say, did not take all of my advice. Pat was Pat, and she started out being funny, and the audience laughed. And from then on, it was a home run all the way. So remember, evaluators, this is your opinion of how you think the speaker did. It's not the audience's opinion. It's not the person sitting next to you who may have said, say that. It's your opinion. You're not right and you're not wrong. You're giving advice. The speaker is free to listen to you and use the information or to discount it as not appropriate. Good lesson. You have in your handouts a funny looking sheet that you've probably never seen. I got it off of one of the many websites or blogs, or I don't know, on the internet for a long time, looking for evaluation information. I thought, since most of you are going to be in the evaluation contest, it requires a template because you're not going to be using a manual with a guide. Now, a lot of us in here have developed our own templates. We've copied from other people. But what I liked about this one, and it's a little long, it's a little cumbersome if you haven't studied it, but it prompts you to look at different areas of the speaker's presentation. So you will never run out of something to say if you just refer to the left-hand side. And because you are to talk about strengths as well as recommendations for improvement, you've got a space to write some details about their speech. I gave you 3 sheets of paper, thinking you might want to practice evaluating all our speakers, or at least jotting down some notes and comparing your impression to the actual evaluator impression. Tonight, Micki is going to give her second icebreaker. She's working on her second basic manual. The objectives of this speech are very simple: to begin speaking before an audience, to discover speaking skills she already has, and skills that need some attention, and to introduce herself to her fellow Toastmasters. Micki D is originally from Romania. Her full or real name is Mihaela Dumitrescu. Mihaela. But I got the Dumitrescu. She immigrated to the U.S. in January 2005 and has been a U.S. citizen since September 2010. Tonight she is going to talk to us about her experience as an immigrant. Please welcome.
My grand adventure. Have you ever traveled to a foreign country? Of course you have. But have you ever traveled to a country where you couldn't understand any words of that language? Let's say something like this. This is a directional sign. And if you take this way, you'll get back to your hotel. And if you take this way, you will find that much needed restroom. Good luck with that. Anyway, chances are that you had a wonderful vacation and after a week or 10 days, you return home. I never did return home. I was gobbled in an extraordinary experience, and that was being an immigrant in the United States. My husband and I. Now, an immigrant's life is not easy, and I'm planning to give you a good taste of what an immigrant goes through, and also a couple of examples of how you can learn a new language in a most efficient way. Example number 1. My husband is a Romanian. He has been in the United States for 7 years. But of course, at the beginning, he had problems with with the language, and being a very shy guy, it was very difficult for him to fit in his new life and make new friends. One afternoon, he was spending his time with a few American fellows, having a glass of something, wine, beer, having a casual conversation. But among them, he was desperately trying to do something with himself. And then he saw this cat. Pussy, 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 pussy. Pussy, 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 pussy. He called the cat to come and play with him. Pussy, 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 pussy. He kept calling. Until his friends told him that this is how you may call a cat in Romanian, but this is definitely not how you call a cat in English, especially in America. Example number 2. My Romanian friend Adriana got a new puppy, a black mutt. She named him Whiskey. The dog, even though it was only a few months old, was pretty big and strong. One evening, she was spending time with her fiancé and her teenage daughter and was playing on the floor with her dog. At a certain point, the dog jumps and knocks her over. Whiskey is such a strong dog. He knocked me up. She said, excited. What? Her fiancé asked, him being an American. Whiskey knocked me up. While her fiancé explained to her what knock up means, her daughter, who of course knew better English than her mom, was laughing on the floor. This is a very good way to learn English. You can imagine that I never forgot the meaning of those words. Now you know something about me that maybe you didn't know before. It is tough to live in a different country and to have to deal with a new language every day. But it can also be fun when you have good friends and you can share your experiences with them. Thank you, friends. I appreciate you more than you think. Madam Toastmaster.
Madam Timer, please put 1 minute on the clock. And this is the time you can finish writing comments for our first speaker. Typically, it's useful to mention a strength and an area where they can improve and some specific detail about why you're making that suggestion. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Please finish up your comments, or you can do this at another time as well. Why you should compete. Oh, I hate the word should. Isn't that horrible? Why you should compete in the Toastmasters evaluation contest. I recommend you compete the next time you have the opportunity to do so. After all, you're here to learn. You're here for your own growth and development. And although you may not feel that you're challenged every week, this is certainly an opportunity to challenge yourself. In addition, you could actually have some fun. Stephen, is it fun for you or?
Yep.
Yep, it's fun for Stephen. How about you, John?
Wait, seriously, I mean, it's so fun. I need to go to Toastmasters longer so I develop a deeper vocabulary so I can put it into words.
Great, well, there is added pressure. It wasn't fun for me the first few times. But when you win, and you can, and it will be a surprise the first time, you'll be glad you entered. Each level that you progress to, if you win at the club level, you'll go on to the area and then on to bigger venues. Each level brings you a larger audience, a different venue, a different speaker, different competition. So it's exciting and it's challenging. But what are you doing here if you don't want to be challenged? Practice, practice, practice. It's one way to practice. And finally, you should compete in a Toastmaster evaluation contest because I said so. Let's go on to our next speaker. Our next speaker this evening is a member that had many work-related changes in the past few years. He was relocated to the Fort Lauderdale area, but now he's back and recently rejoined his old club, the Central Florida Facilitators. He is excited to be back in his home club. He knows that sharing and learning from his fellow Toastmasters is fun and beneficial for all. Also, that our club is a source for great friendship and memories. If you look on your agenda for this evening, you can see the project he's working on and the objectives. Please help me welcome our second speaker, Jorge Elias.
We all have periods in our lives where we think are the best. What was the best period of your time, your life? Do you remember? Was it your childhood, high school, college, or now? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, the best period of my life was being a single father after my divorce. It was a great time for learning, good experiences, and love for the kids. My daughters used to live with me every night, stay with me. Every morning I used to send them to school, or the bus, or take them myself. After school, they used to go to their mother's house, and I picked them up later, around 6:45, 7 o'clock, and that continued. On weekends, of course, it was different. One weekend with the mother, one weekend with me. I'm glad to tell you that my kids turned out to be normal. They were normal kids. Camila, my youngest one, she was never good with hygiene. She hated to take baths. It was a chore to me to make her take baths every night. I had to come up with different ideas every time. I used to read books to her. I used to sing, tell her stories. One time, I took my guitar to the bathroom while she was taking a bath and singing and playing. And all of a sudden, from the bowel, she comes so excited and says, "Daddy, Daddy, that is a great song. You should make a CD. We can be rich." What a great moment. Or should I say precious. On my weekends, my house used to become a 5-star hotel. Every weekend we had between 2 and 6 friends sleeping over. Not just for one night, most of the time the entire weekend. They used to like the full service, the freedom, and all the fun things they could do. Loud music and dancing. They could make their own music. I had a PA with microphones, electric guitar, a drum set, keyboards. And of course, the great food, prepared to order, and most of the time served room service style, breakfast in bed. I remember one time with my daughter Keisha, she comes to the house and gives me this very hard kiss on my face and whispers in my ear, "I love you, Daddy," and keeps coming and skipping, singing a song. It's my father's house, a big, big house with a big, big table, lots and lots of food, and a big, big yard where we can all play. It's my father's house. Something like that. I was so moved, it almost brought tears to my eyes. I would have been I was in cloud 9, but a few weeks later, a disappointment. I found out there was a song they were preparing for a church event. And the father the song referred to was our father. No competition there. 4 or 5, 6 years later, I met Cecilia and Jessica. Cecilia is now my wife. In order to win Cecilia's love, I had to win and earn Jessica's approval and love. I remember one time when they came to visit my house, unannounced. Of course, she comes and she says, "I'm hungry." I wasn't ready. I didn't have hardly anything in the fridge other than hard-boiled eggs. I tell her, "Oh, I don't have anything, but I'll fix you some magic eggs." So I go to the fridge, grab the egg, and tell her, "This is how you do it. You tap one side, and you rub it gently and blow a few times. You turn it over, tap the other side, and rub it and say the words, the magic words, abracadabra." And I proceed to peel the egg, and she enjoys a delicious hard-boiled egg. A few months later, I have a date with Cecilia. I go to her house, pick her up, and of course, she's not ready. What a surprise. Jessica invites me to have some magic egg. She wanted to emulate my style. So she goes to the refrigerator, pulls an egg, and does the same thing. Taps it, all good. She remembers the rubbing, the blowing, the magic word and everything, but it was not working. So she keeps pressing the egg until it busts and slimy juice over her hand and the floor. We had to emergency clean up before the date began. Unfortunately, everything magic needs to be set up. I didn't know, she didn't know. What a precious moment. I can't imagine from something not so nice as a divorce could become the best time of my life as a single father. I have several precious moments with my daughters and friends that I could use in several projects, but I'll save it here in my heart and keep it in my mind. We all have precious moments in our lives. I encourage you to go live your lives to the fullest. Every moment, every minute is a precious moment. Madam Toastmaster.
Madam Timer, we have a minute on the clock so that our members and our guest, if she would like to, can complete some notes for our speaker. Everybody goes to this table. I don't like that. please finish up your comments. Among your pile of handouts is one called Mentor Assignment Notice. I also explored some handouts on mentoring and realized that Toastmasters International gave us a great starting point. Now this was given to the individuals in this club that are mentors. However, I thought it would be useful for the mentees, for all the members, to start reviewing this. If you haven't learned some of the things that are on here, please contact your mentor or anyone in the club, or go online and research a role or how to be a better evaluator, whatever it is you're interested in. So that's something you can take home and review when you have a chance. What is a mentor? It's an educator, a coach, a role model, and a friend. And I think we've proved that over and over in this club. What a mentor does is share their time, share their enthusiasm, share their knowledge, and lend a hand to help our members take their public speaking and leadership skills to the next level. With that, we will turn our attention to our final speaker. Toni G is about to talk to you about evaluations, and specifically how you can win, or some tips on how you can win the club evaluation contest. It's not complete because Micki didn't give me an hour and a half to talk about evaluations. She only gave me about 25% of the meeting. So please welcome Toni G speaking on winning evaluation contest tips. For some in this room, being told that you've been signed up to be a speech evaluator at the next meeting is akin to calling on you for table topics. Oh yeah. Your hands get clammy, there's a knot in your stomach, and negative thoughts like, I could never do a good job evaluating Johnathan start swirling around in your heads. The purpose of today's speech is to leave you more comfortable with considering entering the Toastmaster Club Evaluation Contest August 20th in 2 weeks. I'll accomplish this by giving you some insider tips from previous contest winners, both in our club and outside our club, and how they felt they went about winning the contest. Obviously, it would be helpful to understand the basic principles of a good evaluation, and hopefully you've all taken the time to read this book that came with, from Toastmaster International with your introduction packet to Toastmasters. If not, it's called Effective Evaluation, Tips and Techniques for Giving Helpful Evaluations. It's very thorough. If you haven't read it and you're scheduled to be an evaluator soon, I suggest you borrow a copy from one of the members if you can't find yours, or who knows, everything's downloadable online these days, so you might be able to find it online. I talked about the Judge's Guide and ballot, and I don't think I even knew about Judge's Guides for several contests until I was a Toastmaster member several years. But it's a real key to providing you some tips, because this is the only important thing that the judges refer to when they're evaluating you as an evaluator. So if you'll notice on the left-hand side, 40 points are given for analytical quality, 30 for recommendations, 15 points for technique, and 15 points for summation. The first two categories are grouped together. They're responsible for 70 out of 100 points. And there's really some good news here. It sounds a little, oh my goodness, but the good news is, this is what we practice in this club every time we evaluate a speaker. It's the meat of your speech. It is the strengths, your analysis of the strengths and the weaknesses, or the areas that you think the speaker can improve from their presentation. So your comments should just be clear and logical and organized in a thoughtful way. You should be specific. And sometimes with our newer evaluators, you're missing out on the details of why you're commenting on something. So this is something to go back and review or listen to our evaluators today for the detail that they give a recommendation or even a strength. I suggest you write down all your observations of the evaluators. I love Willie. I love our new member, Willie. The man takes notes. I'm sorry, we're kindred spirits. That's how I learned. Maybe that's not how you learned, but notice the people you admire in here who have won contests, who win Best Evaluator every week. But notice everyone else too, because you can learn by thinking, oh, they should have said this, or I would have said this, by comparing what you would have said to what they would have said. However, you have only 2 to 3 minutes, and this is where I get caught a lot, because I've usually written down a lot of observations. You must focus on the most important points, especially in a contest. You cannot possibly know ahead of time what the other contestants are going to say in their evaluations, and you don't get to be privy to that knowledge. So what you want to do is try to think a little bit out of the box. Once you get good at just your general observations about vocal variety, gestures, moving around too much and should have stayed in one place, things like that, you have to start thinking, what else is there? How can this person give a better speech? And I would promise you this, it's a promise, it's been my experience basically. The more you give evaluations, the more you attend the meetings, the more you learn about how to give an evaluation. The first evaluation I gave in 1997, no one gave me any protocol. I didn't read anything. There was no internet. I gave a 7-minute evaluation because I had a lot to say. And there were no timing lights. There were little cards, green cards, yellow cards, and I never saw a one of them pop up. Fortunately, at the contest, we're a little more sophisticated. The lights stay on. You should know where those lights are, and you should know where you are in your speech. When I talk about saying something unique, an example of that, a couple of weeks ago I evaluated Charlie's speech. And it was political, and it was opinionated, and there was a lot of interesting information in there. And one of the things I said that I thought perhaps no one else would comment on, if it were a contest, was that I would have liked to hear this rather than a speech to inform, a speech to persuade. He had all these emotions bubbling up under the surface. We knew he had a strong opinion, but he didn't state them in that passionate way that I felt he wanted to. It's just a suggestion. Was it right or wrong? Not necessarily, but it was unique. Maybe the judges would remember that. Delivery and technique is worth 15 points. Be professional, give your honest opinion. A dynamic delivery can catch the attention of the judges. However, you don't want to outshine the speaker. You don't want to get up here and perform your speech. You want to give a professional presentation. Consider the manner and language you use. Stay away from, you should do this, that was boring, you need to spice it up, things like that. Sometimes they just come out of your mouth because you're not used to being more positive. On the other handouts that I gave you that's front and back from 2005, those are the things I learned, and the specific words to use are critically important. One way to catch the attention of the judges is to have an interesting opening. And I tried to do that when I was evaluating John's speech the other day. He started with 5, 2, 7. And everybody was listening. And then he said, in 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to transform your life. Listen to my speech, and you will have a new life. I was trying to think, well, what was interesting that I could emulate? So I started 2, 2, 3. In the next 2 to 3 minutes, you're going to hear my opinion about Johnathan's strengths and weaknesses. Leave the speaker inspired and encouraged. And I believe I'm over time, which only helps me emphasize the last thing I'm going to say, which is your summation. very often omitted. I read one article that said 1 in 100 people don't get to the summation in the contest. You must reserve time to summarize your comments and suggestions. Your conclusion is essential, otherwise you will lose 15 points, which is a lot in the contest. Thank you, Madam President. Please finish up any comments that you have for me. We'll take the next minute. And in the meantime, can you give us the timer's report for the speakers? Thank you, Susan.
Micki was supposed to speak for 4 to 6 minutes. She spoke for 4 minutes and 52 seconds, so she qualifies.
What was that again, Susan?
4 minutes and 52 seconds. Jorge was supposed to speak 5 to 7. He spoke 6:07. He qualifies. And Toni, I messed up her stuff, and she's supposed to be 5 to 7. She gets 7 minutes and 30 seconds, so she will qualify. Because I screwed it up.
Okay, thank you for screwing it up.
Really wasn't that far off.
Okay, great. So it's now time to vote for the individual that you thought should win Best Speaker Award. Vote for Micki, for Jorge, or for Toni G. Time for our table topics segment of the meeting. Mark is thankful that he has many mentors in his life. His wife, is it Jana? Jana, mentors him in many areas. One of them is cooking. Mark wanted to prepare a variety of dishes this evening. However, since the fire department won't let him use the oven without giving them 3 days' notice, he cannot actually cook food for you tonight. So he has prepared instead a smorgasbord of questions. It's now time to gather for table topics. And please welcome to the head of the table, tonight's table topics master, Mark Lockery.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. This is the portion of our meeting where everybody has a chance to get involved. Table Topics is our chance to work on our impromptu speaking skills, and it is a great opportunity for those of us who don't have a scheduled speaking role to participate in the meeting. However, tonight I'm going to change things up just a little bit. I'm going to let you decide which question I'm going to ask. So when I call on your name, you just need to simply tell me A or B. And I will read a question from list A or list B. Tonight we will start with Mr. Renju. Please stand up. So Renju, A or B?
I'll go with B.
B.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask.
Is honesty the best policy? Please explain.
To be honest, is one of the greatest things you can ever have in your life. Even if you really struggle for not being honest, I think the best thing to have in your life is to keep and stand by your honest opinions. We always encounter certain situations where you distract from your honest comments or opinions. And at that time, if you stand firm on your honest opinions, I think you will be rewarded at a certain point of time. You may be feeling a bit shocked, or you may be feeling disgraced at that time for being honest, but at a later point of time, you will be rewarded for being honest at that particular point of time. So I always feel that honesty is the best policy in your life, and you should follow that effectively throughout your life.
Toastmaster. Thank you, Renju. Now I'd like to call on Mrs. Susan Morgan. A or B, Susan?
A.
A. Behind every successful man, there is a woman. Is this true?
I love you, Mark. This couldn't be a better question, could it?
I don't know.
I feel a little bit strange about that. I think in any good relationship, there is a give and take. That there is a, I have these strengths and you have those strengths, and we work them together. So in a way, yes, there is a good woman behind every man, but there is also a good man behind every woman, in my opinion. I think, or at least in my situation, I can say that in my opinion, and I've seen it in a lot of other relationships with my sister, with my mom. They're good women and they do their thing, but then they also have a man who does something equally as special. And that's how I like to live my life. And I think that is, if there is a woman behind a great man, there is also a great man behind a woman. Thank you.
At this time, Michann, is that how you pronounce it?
Michann, yeah.
I'll give you the opportunity if you would like to participate.
Okay.
Okay? Please let me know.
I'm just gonna spit my gum up really quick.
That was option
Like
C.
A.
You like A?
Yes.
Okay. The question is, why does slow and steady win the race?
I think that slow and steady wins the race because slow and steady would mean that you take the time to work out a plan of how you're going to meet your finish line. And through that plan, you would be able to maneuver around obstacles that the person who's rushing may not focus on. And it could be those obstacles that would make the difference in the end. And I think that if you do stick by your plan, if you have your objectives and you're working towards them, then slowly but surely you'll be able to meet your goals. I've definitely had examples of that. I think that being able to be consistent and staying on your path, even if it may not be the quickest, that you will reach your goals if you're willing to stick it out and to do everything it takes to accomplish them.
Stogner. Say your beat, Pat. Hey. When was the last time you felt lucky? You only have 1 to 2 minutes.
Last time I felt lucky. I think I feel lucky almost every day, quite frankly. I felt lucky to get that little award from Toni. That really meant a lot. I felt lucky to be able to do my 25 years of service and be acknowledged for it. That was really great. And twice. Toni doesn't even know how special that little Best Speaker award was. For whatever reason, I all of a sudden got all these nerves and jitters, and I went on after 2 fabulous speakers, and I went to Toni, they stole my speech. They did. They said they had a lot of information that was in my speech, so I had to just be Pat. And I felt lucky just to be Pat because it was appreciated. It was received well. I have beautiful children, grandchildren. I'm a very lucky individual. Except the time seems to drag on some. I am lucky that I am healthy. I've got good health. I've got great kids. I've got a great family. And I have the best Toastmaster Club. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Morgan.
Sorry, did I miss C in there? Take A.
A, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Do you have an example of this?
Oh, God.
When I was 12 on Mother's Day, I was admitted to the hospital. I had fluid buildup in my lungs, is what the x-rays showed. And my mom, of course, continually reminds me of how Mother's Day got ruined that particular year. I was in the hospital in the end for 17 days. Fairfax Hospital, not a small hospital even back then. And the doctors had no clue what was going on. What they eventually figured out, it was bacterial infection, essentially got into the pleural cavity, which is between the lungs and the chest, and was physically multiplying and squeezing the lungs out. By the time they got into it, the bacteria colonized, so none of the antibiotics were working. They had to put in a chest tube to physically suck it out. I've got this nice scar that's left here, and I get to tell people, yeah, I got shot. That's what it looks like. When I finally got out of that, I was out of school for a month. They didn't give me grades for that final quarter of 6th grade. First day I finally got back to school, what did I want to do? Come right recess, I wanted to go run around and play soccer. I wasn't supposed to be doing any exercise at all. As it turned out, over the next couple of years, I actually got better at soccer and ended up doing well on the teams that I played on. My own physical fitness improved during that time to the peak that I had ever gotten. Eventually getting about 5:43 a mile in 8th grade. We had to run it every single week. Some things can eventually make you stronger, and my lungs have been fine since then. But that doesn't mean that everything's going to do it, because I've seen all too many times, especially as a hypnotist with many clients, that traumas that you encounter, most of them especially while you're young, can keep recurring in your own mind and affect you all the way through, often making things much harder for you. So there are many ways that things that can hurt you, that may not kill you, may find a way to continue to harm you. But it depends on how you manage to recover from it and how you're going to recover from it, and that you make the effort to recover from it. And a great place for that, Toastmasters. Let's go and recover from all of those things here, because the best part, you get to talk about it. Mr. Tabletop Toastmaster.
We've completed everybody that doesn't have an assigned speaking role, so at this point, I saw Johnathan seemed like he was done with his evaluation. So Johnathan.
You got Alan.
Alan is the vote counter. I'm not supposed to.
There it is.
Johnathan, A or B?
I want to follow one of my mentors, Stephen, and pick A.
It's a two-part question. Are you a cat person or a dog person, and why?
Yes! Fellow Toastmasters, yes. The last 3 weeks, in table topics, I keep hearing all these questions that I'm dying for, and tonight was no exception. So certainly when he laid on me, it's a two-parter, I thought, God, I'm going to answer somebody else's question. I really like, the truth is good enough. Am I a cat person or a dog person? As many of you know, I've been married 3 times. I choose to overlook things in the pursuit of love. My last ex-wife, when I met her, before I went over to her house for the very first time, she said, "Do you have any allergies?" I thought, the only allergy I have is penicillin. And she goes, "Good, because I have 5 cats." And I went, damn. I didn't want to backtrack and say I did have cat allergies, because I really did. But I wanted to be with this girl so bad that I loaded myself up on allergy medicine before I went to her house. Came across probably as some sort of a zombie. She married me anyhow. We all know how that ended up. Which brings me to the next point. People ask me simple questions all the time. It's a very simple answer, and I always have these really long answers. So Mark, I don't want to deflect off the question. As Stephen and Susan know, many of you know, I adopted a Chihuahua that I carry around with me virtually everywhere. I'm not married to the cat woman any longer. I still have my dog. And thus, to answer your question, Mark, I am all about being a dog person. And if there's anyone in this room that doesn't like dogs, I have to seriously question your humanity.
Susan, can we get a quick time with your corporate?
Put Johnathan's name in here so I remember who you are. Okay, Renju talked about the truth for 1 minute and 6 seconds. I talked about the woman behind the man behind the woman for 1 minute and 12 seconds. Michann, I forget what you talked about. I'm sorry, I was not writing at the time. But you spoke for 58 seconds. You only had 2 more seconds to qualify. I'm so sorry about that. Pat, you talked about being lucky for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Stephen, you spoke for what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And John, you spoke for 1 minute and 54 seconds. So everyone but Michann qualifies.
So please vote for best table topics, and at this time I'll turn the left hand over back to the Toastmaster.
Somewhere I read that the vote counter shouldn't be called on for table topics. There's an explanation for this. The vote counter is not allowed to vote unless there's a tie. What would you do if you were one of the people tied? It puts the vote counter in an awkward situation to vote for himself, him or herself, I'm looking at Ellen, or vote for the 1 or 2 other people that are involved in the tie.
If that's the case, I will be glad to break the tie.
Well, there you go. You solved that problem. Call an Alan next time. I know I've given you a lot of handouts. I'm running out of time. I'm not going to be with you after August 27th for about 6 weeks. So I was actually grateful that Micki asked me to do a whole bunch of stuff. It gave me a chance to prep you for the contest, the evaluation contest, and then I also had told Micki I would assist her with the mentoring responsibilities of the club, so it gave me an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. I hope you don't feel overwhelmed. I know some of you don't like handouts. Feel free to go home and shred them. You won't offend me. However, there is some really good information there. At this time, we're going to get to learn more about evaluations from our evaluators. Getting to know our general evaluator tonight, Linda, lives in Apopka with her husband, Roland, and 4 stray black cats. Lately, she's helping a neighbor with her cat, Mercedes. Linda asked the neighbor if it was okay if she put flea medication on the cat once a month. She stops by and pets Miss Mercedes, who is still growing into her name. So skinny and with missing fur, she used to look more like a Ford Fiesta. You have to explain that to me. She's glad she was able to voice her concern about coming across as a nosy, judgmental busybody. Linda attributes this to her Toastmaster practice and wishes to gain much more experience in the future. Toastmasters makes it easier to communicate and connect with folks. Please help me welcome our General Evaluator, Linda Earls.
And for my clearing myself totally, I also like dogs. We're all on the same page with no matter which one you like better. I like them both. And this evening, I would like to ask our first evaluator to, I'm going to introduce our first evaluator, and that is Johnathan Dunn. He loves this club, plain and simple. He loves it. He understands each week it is an honor to be able to volunteer and speak in front of the club as it involves conquering fear. It is truly a beautiful exchange, for he gets to give a piece of himself to the club, and in return this reciprocates healing to his soul. For it is in giving that we truly receive. He looks forward to giving Micki mentoring on her speech and taking her from good to great. I'm hoping that piece that he's giving us is white meat. No, I'm only kidding. Please welcome to the lectern, Mr. Johnathan Milford Dunn.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, especially you, Micki, my great friend. This evening, we are going to go on a grand adventure to take you from icebreaker status to professional speaker. And how we're going to do that? We're going to take the power of three. We're going to explore three key areas that should go into every speech. We're going to start with structure. My grand adventure. Heck, I was captivated to hear what you had to say simply because you were up here getting ready to say something. I don't believe I'd ever seen you give a prepared speech before. So I really loved the title. And I really loved that you started with that. I mean, after a 9-to-5 day of work, who doesn't want to go on a grand adventure? One of the roles of an icebreaker speech is to let the club get to know you. And it was weird how you did that. I have never seen you engage in so much humor. In the body of your speech, you had lots of humor. And it was more that you showed that humor that let us get to know a new piece of you than anything else that happened in the speech. And then the closing was appropriate. But Micki, I want to ask you something. Have you ever watched Emeril Lagasse? He has the famous saying of, "We need to kick it up a notch." You can't really look down and have your hands behind your back and say grand adventure and have anybody really believe what you're going to say. Because grand is grand. And that leads us into the content, Micki. I was so proud of you that you had this direction side, that fellow Toastmasters, this direction means you come out from behind the lectern. And if I had been a gambling man, I wouldn't have gambled on you coming out from behind that lectern, but you did it! So the Japanese sign really kicked some butt. Another thing she did, when she had laughing in her speech, she laughed. That's awesome. People in every speech, they want to feel good. Your word choice created imagery. I kept thinking, though, I was going to hear the cop song, bad boys, what you gonna do? Because your hands were behind your back in the handcuff position a lot. So I was waiting for a police officer to come in. That was really part of the delivery, but I had to throw it in there. It had to go somewhere. Back to the delivery, though. The part about the pussycat. You're making the pussycat sounds. Well done. Micki showed great vocal variety. You have a very graceful, loving accent. Micki's appearance was fantastic. That's part of delivery, ladies and gentlemen. Her appearance was very appropriate. One of my favorite basketball players was Allen Iverson, and he didn't like to practice. His career is now over. So as far as you getting better there, just practice, practice, practice. Micki, tonight you emulated a speaker far above the icebreaker stage, and I'm looking forward to the next. Madam General Evaluator.
Our next evaluator, I would like to introduce is Charlie Evaluator. He takes learning the art of evaluation seriously, as he believes that it is the most important way for a speaker to advance their speaking abilities. Evaluations boost members' confidence and provide a map to reach the speaker's goals. Please help me welcome Charlie Bombalier, evaluating George Elias on his speech, Precious Moments.
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, especially Jorge. Precious moments. Did you realize how authentic that speech was? That speech came from right here. That's a rare speech that people can give when it comes strictly from the heart. Your objective in your speech was to use vocal variety, was to either go down or up in your speech, and you did do that. You accomplished your objectives in your speech. The great thing that you did was you had emotion in your speech. When you talked about your daughter, how much, you can tell just by the way that you were speaking how much you loved your daughter. You could also tell the energy towards the end of your speech. You were just more energy, but the more you spoke about your kids, it was just pouring out of you, and that was great. If I may give you one little suggestion, would be you started out here and you went like this, and you kind of held on, and then you came out here. You didn't need to. Get yourself out here and say, here I am. I have the floor, and I got something important to tell you. And you did tell it, which was great. I love the way that you spoke about your children, all the little things. I love the way that you expressed emotion also on when your daughter showed you that egg and broke the egg and it was a real egg. The way that you sang at your daughter's bath, that was great, that was precious. I like that you were able to use the word emulate in your speech. I like the way that you held the vision of everyone's eyes, because I was paying attention. The one thing also that I would suggest to you would be to pause a little more. You made some great comments. It didn't even have time to absorb it when you went to another one. If you had just paused for a few extra seconds, that would make your speech much more powerful. To summarize your speech, I believe that's one of the most genuine speeches I have heard. It was a great, great speech to hear. I think it warmed everyone's heart in this place to hear that speech. General Master Tidbit.
Our third evaluator, Gail Hill-Smith, has been mentored, coached, counseled, taught, and instructed all her life. And even today, 4 days before her 63rd birthday, she continues down this path. As a lifelong learner, she takes any and all opportunities to learn and be mentored. Toastmasters, with its communication and leadership tracks, have been an invaluable piece to this ever-growing puzzle. Welcome DTM Gail Hill-Smith to evaluate the third project of Toni G.
Sorry about that. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and Toni. You'd never know that tonight Toni was giving her third project in her basic manual. Because the purpose of this was to be very specific in your purpose and citing specific examples. As you mentioned, an evaluation is like a mini speech. So, Toni, let me give you a little mini speech. As we all know, Toastmasters teaches us to tell the audience what we're going to tell them, and then tell them what you just told them. Toni came out in blaring color. She told us exactly what her general purpose was, and then very specifically said, when you leave this meeting, you will know winning tips for an evaluation contest. Got right into her body and concluded. However, she broke from that very basic skeleton of a project format in that she had a dynamic opening. Her body was so full of content that unfortunately she ran out of time, hence rushed her summary. In fact, practically did not give us a summary. But what do we take from that? I think Toni should come back with an advanced manual that has at least 18 to 20, maybe 30 minutes to give a workshop on this topic, which is invaluable to all of us, whether as an evaluator or those of us that are going to be entering the evaluation contest. Read your materials. She took a lot of time to prepare those. And next time, when you see the red light, do not acknowledge that. Don't let your audience know that you're running out of time, because we would not have known that. Susan gave you a 7-minute, 30-second, you were right on time. Otherwise, Toni, come back, give us a workshop on this, and fill us with all the tips and materials that you possibly want. Madam General Evaluator.
And I've got my big shoes on, and she's giving me a hard time. I'm not very experienced on these things. You give me a chance. Well, we had a wonderful meeting, and I'd like to get some feedback from our functionaries.
Timers.
Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, the timer.
You. For evaluation, Johnathan spoke for 3 minutes and 24 seconds. He qualifies. Charlie spoke for 2 minutes and 57 seconds, so he qualifies. And Gail, 2 minutes and 53 seconds, so you qualify. Every one of them qualifies.
So we made both. Best evaluator. And give it a little chance. Okay, and as we're finishing that up, could Stephen, our grammarian, give his report?
Madam General Evaluator, the use of the word of the day, emulate. You have several people who you may emulate now. Johnathan used it twice, though one of them was in Toni's introduction and already scripted. Susan used it. Toni used it herself twice. Alan used it, Jorge used it. I think, Pat, you were trying to use it at that point, right? That's what I had down here. The rest of you who are members and have given your icebreaker, pay your quarter.
Ouch.
And as for the use of the English language, are there anyone else in the audience? And there's rules. Let's try and get our verbs to match our subjects. Also note here, doesn't take a long time before you can step in that position, and it makes me think like you stepped into something you didn't really want on your foot. A few hiccups that probably didn't need. I heard with that, I had seen or not quite seen, I had heard the lectern being turned over and I had not yet seen it. I also heard a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, gonna. What you woulda said. I also heard we are gonna go, what you're gonna say. Let's try and finish off the ing in there at some point. Tony, in 1997, there was an internet.
1971.
I thought I heard 97.
I don't remember.
I was not sure what that piece is white meat, if that was something I was supposed to know. It went way over my head.
Sorry, that was not a good addition.
I like Gail's specific purpose is to give you specific examples. Let's get very more specific.
Yes.
As we all know, good persuasive technique, get right into the body and conclude it. I wasn't sure if that came out right. One of them sounded like a noun, the other one seemed like it was supposed to be the verb. And conclusion is what I expected to hear, and I heard conclude it. And of course, the one thing we're all going to remember quite well is it brought tears to my ear.
Miss Pat as our ah counter.
It appears to me that most of us have learned to get away from the ahs and ums, because now we've taken over the like, and, so. Tonight, Micki, you had one ah or and two and likes or so's. Toni, you had one double clutch and one and, or like or so. Jorge, I want to tell you guys that I was listening to the speeches really well, so were really good, whichever way it goes, Stephen. And I didn't catch all those ums. I have a whole bunch. So Jorge, we had you with one ah and one double crutch, and two and likes or so's. Mark, I didn't catch anything. Renju, I didn't catch anything on you either. Susan, you had four and likes and so's. Michann, you don't have to pay, you're a visitor, but you had two and likes or so's. Mine, I had a whole bunch, I owe a lot of money. Stephen, you had two and likes or so's. Johnathan, one and like or so. Linda, two ahs and ums, one double clutch, three and likes and so's. Charlie, one and likes and so. Gail, three and likes or so's. That's what I have for today.
And I'd like to remind you to vote for the most improved. And I wanted to talk a little bit about our meeting, which a lot of the checklists that I've seen go through the mechanical preparation, and we do really well in this club on all those things. So I'll skip right over. We have our banner, all these kinds of things we're very good at. And I think that we organize ourselves, and we, at the spur of the moment, if we need to take on a role, we do all these things really well. And we also are a friendly group. I heard our guests mention that we welcomed them. And all these things are very important. You need to be not only a structurally perfect club, but we need to be a club with heart. And I think we really did well on that too. Our speakers were excellent. One thing I could suggest to blend with Toni's theme of encouraging people to be in the contest was to choose newer evaluators, less experienced, because they were all so impressive. I think that may have intimidated some folks from being in the contest. But we'll keep at that until, as the weeks go on, encouraging folks to be in the contest. And what a worthwhile goal to be able to evaluate each other and help each other learn. Very important. I thought also that, Toni, your comments, sometimes I was wondering, is she going from encouraging to badgering a little bit? But she only touched on that ever so slightly, ever so slightly. I think I remember, because I said so, something like that. But of course, she was also very encouraging. And all her information, when people are empowered with information, that is the best kind of encouragement, because you feel like, gee, I can do this. She's giving me all these great handouts, and they're always helpful, because you can ignore them if you don't want them. But somebody that loves that kind of stuff and can look it all over at home in their leisure, all the better. So all in all, and I had one request that I talk about we hand over the lectern well, but there's one mechanical thing we could work on, and that is, it's such a general rule that you can always expect somebody coming at you to take over the lectern is going to be in front, because you don't want to upstage the speaker. So as the person's approaching, you're trying to see which side they're going to go on, but other than that, your rule in your back of your head is, I'm going to be in behind, because the new person approaching the lectern is going to be the highlight. So you have to maneuver yourselves a little bit, but always step to the back as you're letting the other person take the front position. So that's one little thing we can work on. I thought it went excellent tonight, and I'd like to return the lectern, hopefully correctly, with my big shoes on, back to the president.
Michann, what did you think?
This is very intimidating for me. I said I'd been to the Rollins meeting for about 6 months, but growing up, I didn't mention this, I was extremely shy. My voice would crack when I'm trying to talk because it just scared me. So I'm still getting over a lot of fear. So
You did great.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
You did great.
If I may, two words of advice. Come again next week and join us. I'm speaking from experience. It'd be one of the best things that you've done. Where is our roll sheet? Because I really want to sign up for speaker next week.
Oh, man.
Because I'm going to be a test speaker in 2 clubs, and I want them to not have one thing to be able to say to me. Small goal.
You've gotten a lot better.
But we can always do it the old-fashioned way, Micki, by hand.
Some people are signed up
We'll sign
already.
up for it next week.
There's a
Yeah.
couple speakers.
Before we sign up for rolls too, I want to go against the grain, and I want to hand out the Tim Chastain Award before Alan brings up the other awards for me. And it's going to be a tie tonight. And this is actually important before the rolls part. These 2 ladies set the example. They say yes, they're not scared, and they're benefiting hugely from it. We are benefiting hugely from it. It's very important in human nature that we reciprocate that. So those of you that have been on the El Fenso to try something new, jump off. I mean, seriously, do you think anybody in here actually cares if you flub it up? They don't. They don't. We actually probably would like it because it would be funny. We're slowly evolving into the party club, so the wine is a great touch. Mark suggested next week, though, we get a bottle on each table like that. And then we can write on the tablecloth how many and then put it in our little fund. Sounds like a good idea. In fact, the area governor's coming on the contest night. Let's freak him out. I mean, that'd be great. Because God knows when he sees my speech, he will be. Okay, so back to the Tim Chastain. It goes to 2 ladies that say yes. I don't know. careful it's against the rules. It's going to Linda and Tony.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can look at the agenda and know what Tony did, but Linda stepped up to be General Evaluator today, with Tony doing what Toastmasters do and making sure all the roles are filled. Okay? So, are we going to do sign-ups or no? Are you going to handle that? All right. If there's room to speak, I'd like to speak, but otherwise, just stick me anywhere and let me know.
Okay.
Have a round for the rest of them.
I have just one.
Sure, absolutely, please.
I'm going to put in $2 tonight because you're not going to see me for a while. I told you that my birthday is in 4 days. Well, my birthday gift to myself was a trip to France. So,
Yes!
yeah. So I arrive in Marseille on my birthday. I leave Saturday, arrive Sunday. I'll be gone for almost 2 weeks. Upon my return, I'm going to be regrouping. My daughter is expecting my second grandbaby, and I'm going to be heading up to North Carolina for, I think, about 3 weeks. I don't expect the labor to be that long, but I have to help her out because her husband's going to be gone.
And in between those trips?
But in
what are you gonna
between,
do?
there is a week or two, I'm just going to have to play it by ear. If I show, I show. If I don't, but I'll let you know if there's any schedule. Who's taking money?
Have I told you lately?
Toastmasters on 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Louder.
Happy birthday, dear Gail. Happy birthday to you. We love you.
You guys cannot add that to your repertoire.
Does that count in the manual?
There will be a CD coming out.
Tony, are you standing up because you're chomping at the bit to say something?
Well, the contest.
Yes,
just
please.
Maybe a few more words, but really Gail omitted something important. She was going to come visit me in the hospital to take a picture of my new scar after surgery, so she made a promise to me. The contest. Who has not observed a contest? Who here? Mark, you saw one?
I saw the last one.
The last one. Okay, Renju.
Well,
Well, you're in it. You were in it, the last one.
Well, yeah.
He wasn't watching.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. I know. You're right. You're kind of in a fog when you're a contestant. This competition comes once a year. It is the evaluation contest and the humorous speech contest. You all have been funny at times, even Micki. Now we can congratulate Micki on her sense of humor. As I said before, you're all eligible. We will meet here. We will ask some people to come at 6 o'clock to help set up the room. There will be judges. There will be people from other clubs coming in to observe and participate. And we will need functionaries. We do need to know if you're going to be in the contest, because if you're in the contest, you can't be a functionary and support the contest. So if you could let us know in the next few days, or definitely by next Wednesday, because we'll have to go outside the club to fill some of those roles. If you know you're going to be here, you will help, okay? And please go on Easy Speak or send an email to Micki and let us know if you will be here. One of the problems with the schedule or the agenda this evening was I went on Easy Speak and there were about 4 confirmations. So it's hard to fill a role, although Linda was one of the people that had confirmed, and I said, let's get Linda. So that was helpful. But to put in some of these protocols that will help the club to go on Facebook, Mark or Stephen, if you could help by sending some links so we could be reminded to do some of the things that we're bringing guests, that would be helpful too. So are there any questions about the contest? It will be in the same time frame, the same room. We will just need some extra help. If we want to have food, somebody will have to manage the refreshment. Yeah, refreshments for the evening. The wine is gone that I bought for the banquet, so. All right, thank you. If you
Yes.
need to ask me any questions, just call me.
Drum roll, pizza. I love when our first award winner comes up here, goes back down, sits down, and wins an award. It's Murphy's Law, most improved this evening, Toni Gill.
I didn't bore everybody to death.
That was great.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
The Best Table Topics Award goes to me. Thank you, everybody, for your votes. Help me erase a painful memory of the cat woman wife. Best Evaluator Award. Thank you again for your votes. It's awkward. And the best speaker this evening.
All right.
Man, oh man, they were all good, and I really agree. From the heart, Mr. Jorge Elias. Great job. Go safely into the night, meeting adjourned.